Hashtag young gang. Got her again. Hi, honey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
No.
So today we're going to be stepping back a little bit into Eazy. We're still staying in the same chronological order, obviously, but we're going to be going back to the book of Ezekiel.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't recall, last time on the Bible, Jesus saved the Beastie Boys from being thrown into a furnace because they pissed off Nebuchadnezzar after not bowing down to his giant golden dong. And this time, Eazy is going to get another vision from God. Now, this comes about 25 years after they got yeeted out of Judah. No?
Mm-mm.
They got thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
And imprisoned and exiled and all this other stuff. Being dipshits is essentially what it amounts to. Anyways, God starts off the vision by picking his ass up and throwing him at a mountain near Israel. And he's like looking over this giant sprawling city or whatever. And then he picks him up from that mountain and throws him into the city center where they see one of those bronze street performers.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, all like stop motion kind of thing. And he moves like really quick, but then he stays really still. I don't know how they do it.
Like a mime?
Yeah.
But bronze?
Yeah. Have you never seen those?
I mean, I've seen mimes. I've seen the bronze, the people painted like statues.
Right.
But I've never seen a bronze mime that I can think of, that I can recall.
He's not like a mime. It's a street performer that's the bronze statue, but he's like painted bronze instead of like silver or something.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, when you describe the moving, they don't move, do they? The street performers?
They change position on occasion.
I mean, I don't sit around and watch them for like long enough to know.
Oh, okay. They do change positions.
Okay.
That's one of the things. Anyways, but God says, listen closely to what he is going to tell you, young Padawan. And apparently the bronze guy gets on a break and he decides to take him around this building and gives him exact measurements. Excuse me. Gives them exact measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. Take one step at a time, just everything. And I guess Easy's just supposed to remember all these fucking numbers and shit.
Well, I mean, that's what blueprints are for.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's having a vision right now. It's not like he's like, drawing
That's
a
true.
blueprint.
This would have been a lot. Maybe he is drawing a blueprint during the vision. We don't know.
I guess we don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that light shining out of his ass can do a lot, apparently.
Well, I thought that's when he's telling people.
I mean, I figured it's just happening when God's like entering his beehole.
What?
Yeah. Anyways, the priests are gonna get special rooms, and this temple is pretty basic bitch stuff. From the windows to the walls, sweat's gonna drip from their balls. He tells them exactly how many tables he wants in there, and that the priest rooms are really just for fucking. And then God puts his dong in the temple. And of course, Eazy gets into the position quickly that he's supposed to, face down, ass up. God picks his Twinkie ass up and carries him off like a suitcase around the temple and explains how holy this temple's gonna be. I'm guessing because of God's dick being there all the time. And then he talks about how to bless the altar, which is kind of weird because what he has is Ezekiel's got to sprinkle cat's blood on the altar and then roll around in it like he's playing in it, kind of like a cat.
Yeah.
He probably also has to do something weird with the cat carcass. But anyways, they've also got no festivities. God's written all of that shit off because, of course, God gave them some leniency last time and gave them some like holidays and shit. This time, God's like, y'all don't get no holidays. Y'all been fucking up.
What?
Yep.
That's bullshit.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he says that the Levites are out. Fuck them Levites. And apparently there's no high priest. And then, of course, there's all the animal slaughter. So not only do cats get slaughtered, but also other animals get slaughtered. And my guess is that they got to build this pool of blood and then they just sort of take a bath in the blood, and then they sprinkle it on.
That doesn't sound hygienic.
No. But hey, that's how you bless the altar of God, with blood and sacrifices.
Yeah. I mean, that's accurate. Not exactly how you described, but yeah.
I mean, just wait until we get Jesus dying on the cross. That's the ultimate blood splatter on the altar of God.
Is it? I mean, he's a blood god.
Yeah, I mean, like in the New Testament, they scourge Jesus, and that's what gets all the blood flowing, so that it's like, oh, all this blood. And that's why, Mel Gibson did the movie with all the blood in it.
Yeah, that movie was dreadful.
They actually had a guy, when they were nailing Jesus to the wood, they actually had a guy just off camera with one of them little squirter things, like a meat baster, but it was full of like fake blood. And they had it off screen so that when they nailed him, like the Romans nailed the nail through his hand or whatever in the fuck, they would squirt. So it's like, it would squirt blood out just to add more blood to it.
That's disgusting.
Fun facts with GE.
Not fun, but facts. Okay. We're still going to go through it all.
Fuck. What's up, heathens?
How y'all doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I hope everybody's doing good today.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I got some things wrong, but I can guarantee you that the length and the width of the temple is 69 by 69.
It's not.
Whatever in the fucks.
No. It isn't.
Cubits, longer cubits, and
none of
talent is a weight.
Hand breadth is the other.
Oh.
Measurement. Hand breadth.
Figures they would measure things in hands.
Hand breadth. A hand breadth, for anybody who doesn't know, is about 3.5 inches. So I guess it matters how big your hand is or how small your hand is. But like if you measured something if I measured something by hand breadths, it would be a very different measurement than if John measured something by hand breadths.
Yeah.
So
I got big hands.
Yeah. And I have small hands. So hand breadth seems like a really dumbass way to measure some shit. But it's in the Bible.
You know what they say about guys with big hands?
You need big gloves.
I'm very clumsy. I figured that's what they say. Oh. I mean, I fuck everything up. You've seen the live stream.
Knocking shit over.
Yep.
That's just because you talk like an Italian.
Do I?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
with
have
the hands.
Any. I'm Puerto Rican and I got a bit of Scottish in me.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it.
So I don't know. Maybe you're just especially, what did my mom call you? Animated. That is the term that my mother used to describe me. While she was over here and we were downstairs and he was up here recording, and we could hear him recording, but of course it's just random shit because you can't hear everything. You can just hear when he gets especially loud and mostly when he's Brocephus.
Yeah.
So animated is the term that she used. So here we are. You ready to start this shit?
Yeah, let's figure out the measurements of the temple and exactly how many cats we got to slaughter in order to make God happy.
No cats.
Cats? What?
No, we don't slaughter
Egypt.
Cats.
You're going to tell me there's no cats being slaughtered? Well, okay, they're partially in Egypt, partially in Nebuchadnezzar land. I mean, but there's cats places.
I'm not saying cats don't exist. I'm saying they're not slaughtering cats.
They should.
Well, why?
Well, I mean, if they really want to stick it to the Egyptians, fuck the cats up. I mean, the Egyptians love cats.
I know, but it's not really about them. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to be doing Ezekiel 40 through 43, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to jump right in. We're 25 years into exile, right?
Okay.
And this vision is 12 years after his last recorded vision. So it's been a while since we've heard from Ezekiel.
Yep, it's been a minute, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th of the month, in the 14th year after the fall of the city, on that very day, Jesus Christ, the way that they describe time is so inefficient.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that very day, the hand of the Lord was on me, and he took me there. In visions of God, he took me to the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain, on whose south side were some buildings that looked like a city. He took me there, and I saw a man whose appearance was like bronze. He was standing in the gateway with a linen cord and a measuring rod in his hand. The man said to me, "Son of man, look carefully and listen closely and pay attention to everything I'm going to show you, for that is why you have been brought here. Tell the people of Israel everything you see." I saw a wall completely surrounding the temple area. The length of the measuring rod in the man's hand was 6 long cubits. Okay. So a long cubit is, just in case anybody wants to know, is a cubit plus a handbreadth.
Okay.
I don't know why they can't just measure the motherfucker in regular cubits and it just be more of them. But we need a long cubit. So a long cubit is about 21 inches. Okay.
Okay.
So the wall, or the measuring rod, the bronze man's rod.
Yep. His rod
is 6 long cubits, or about 11 feet.
Fuck.
Which, if in case anybody wants to know, is longer than the longest rod on the planet.
Yep, that would be the blue well, which it's not 15 foot like some mediocre creationists would say, like Kent Hovind, but it's actually about 10 feet.
So this measuring rod is the longest rod on the planet.
It is a foot thick, though, which is quite massive.
Not the rod.
No, not the rod. I'm
not
talking
the measuring
about the whale
rod.
Penis.
Yeah, I know. Just wanted to clarify. It doesn't actually tell us how the breadth of the measuring rod. It just tells us how long it is. Okay. So, all right. So the length of the measuring rod in his hand was 6 long cubits, each of which was a cubit and a handbreadth. So that's what a long cubit is, a cubit and a handbreadth.
Okay.
He measured the wall. It was 1 measuring rod thick and 1 rod high. Then he went to the east gate. He climbed its steps and measured the threshold of the gate. It was 1 rod deep. The alcoves for the guards were 1 rod long and 1 rod wide, and the projecting walls between the alcoves were 5 cubits thick. Now, when he says cubits, still we're using long cubit. From chapters 40 to 48, when they say cubit, they mean long cubit. The measurement that they're using here is long cubit. So 5 cubits thick. So these are 8 3/4 foot. Okay. And the threshold of the gate next to the portico facing the temple was 1 rod deep. So 11 feet, right?
This has got to be very awkward walking around using your dick to measure things. Like, don't you see? Like, this is how long I want it. It's like, oh God, please. Okay. Put your trunk up.
Then he measured the portico of the gateway. It was 8 cubits deep, and its jambs were 2 cubits thick. Jambs?
Jams, like preserves?
No, like door jambs. Jambs. Jambs.
Okay.
They were 2 cubits thick. The portico of the gateway faced the temple. Inside the east gate were 3 alcoves on each side. The 3 had the same measurements, and the faces of the projecting walls on each side had the same measurements. Then he measured the width of the entrance of the gateway. It was 10 cubits in its length. Oh, it was 10 cubits, the entrance, and its length was 13 cubits. Okay, so 13 cubits is 18 feet wide. Okay. It was 18 feet wide and 23 feet long.
God's just here to help, okay?
In front of each alcove was a wall 1 cubit high, and the alcoves were 6 cubits square. Then he measured the gateway from the top of the rear wall of one alcove to the top of the opposite one. The distance was 25 cubits, from one parapet opening to the opposite one. He measured along the faces of the projecting walls all around the inside of the gateway, 60 cubits. The measurement was up to the portico facing the courtyard. The distance from the entrance to the gateway to the far end of its portico was 55 cubits. The alcoves and the projecting walls inside the gateway were surmounted by narrow parapet openings all around, as was the portico. The openings all around faced inward. The faces of the projecting walls were decorated with palm trees. Okay, so that is just the east gate.
So what if at the end of this, like he's drawing it all out on a blueprint and it's just like a giant dong and the palm trees are like the bush?
I mean, I don't know. That would be funny. That's not what happens. Okay. So that was just the east gate. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the outer court. Okay. Then he brought me into the outer court. There I saw some rooms and a pavement that had been constructed all around the court. There were 30 rooms along the pavement. It abutted the sides of the gateways and was as wide as they were long. This was the lower pavement. Then he measured the distance from the inside of the lower gateway to the outside of the inner court. It was 100 cubits on the east side as well as on the north.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's talk about the north gate. Then he measured the length and width of the north gate leading into the outer court. Its alcoves, 3 on each side, its projecting walls, and its portico had the same measurements of those as the first gateway. It was, instead of just saying that, we're going to go through it all again, okay? It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. Its openings, its portico, and its palm tree decorations had the same measurements as those of the gate facing the east. 7 steps led up to it, with its portico opposite them. There was a gate to the inner court facing the north gate, just as there was on the east. He measured from one gate to the opposite one. It was 100 cubits.
Okay.
All right, you ready for the south gate?
Yeah.
Then he led me to the south side, and I saw the south gate. He measured its jambs and its portico, and they had the same measurements as the others. The gateway and its portico had narrow openings all around like the openings of the others. It was 55 cubits long and 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. 7 steps led up to it with its portico opposite them. It had palm tree decorations on the faces of the projecting walls on each side. The inner court also had a gate facing south, and he measured it from this gate to the outer gate on the south side. It was 100 cubits. Are you ready to talk about more gates?
Yeah.
Gates.
To
the inner court. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then he brought me into the inner court through the south gate, and he measured the south gate. It had the same measurements as the others. Its alcoves, its projecting walls, and its porticos has the same measurement as the others. The gateway and its portico had openings all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. The porticos of the gateways around the inner court were 25 cubits wide and 5 cubits deep. Its portico faced the outer court. Palm trees decorated its jambs, and 8 steps led up to it. Then he brought me to the inner court on the east side, and he measured the gateway. It had the same measurements as the others. Its alcoves, its projecting walls, and its portico had the same measurements as the others. The gateway and its portico had openings all around. It was 50 cubits wide, 50 cubits long, 25 cubits wide. Its portico faced the outer court. Palm trees decorated the jambs on either side, and 8 steps led up to it. You know, it must have been a bitch to do this without fucking copy paste.
Yeah.
Then he brought me to the north gate and measured it. It had the same measurements as the others, as did its alcoves, its projecting walls, and its portico, and it had openings all around. It was 50 cubits long, 25 cubits wide. Its portico faced the inner court. Palm trees decorated the jambs on either side, and 8 steps led up to it. You're just going to let me keep going here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I figured just so here's my problem. Okay, with sections like this.
Yeah.
I really don't care how God likes his temple designed.
I really don't understand why God would care.
I don't know either. I get that it was important for like the society of the Jews and everything like that, but like as far as in the Bible, the story and everything, like I don't understand why this is in here. Like put an addendum to it. Like, you know, see, you know, building instructions in appendix, you know, ZZ top or something. You know, I mean, I just don't understand the point in it. So
right.
I guess I know that we need to get through this. So I'm just trying to let you get through it as fast as we can.
You gonna let me finish?
Yeah. Because I mean, like I said, I don't care how he shapes his dildos or his sex rooms, but if he wants to meticulously lay it out, then he can't tell me that he couldn't tell them not to own other people and shit like that. Like, you can't be this meticulous and then also forget like basic morality shit.
Yeah. Or like, don't rape people, or women aren't property.
Those things. I mean, for starters.
Okay. Are we going to talk about the rooms now? Let's talk about the rooms.
Okay.
A room with a doorway was by the portico in each of the inner gateways where the burnt offerings were washed. Okay, so this is where they cleaned the burnt offerings before they burnt them, because they had to be clean before they were burned.
To a crisp.
Yeah. In the portico of the gateway, there were 2 tables on each side on which the burnt offerings, sin offerings, and guilt offerings were slaughtered. By the outside of the wall, the portico of the gateway near the steps at the entrance of the north gateway were 2 tables, and on the other side of the steps were 2 tables. So there were 4 tables on one side of the gateway and 4 on the other, 8 tables in all, in case you can't add.
Yep.
On which sacrifices were slaughtered. So in this particular temple, there are 8 slaughter tables.
Nice.
Yep. There were also 4 tables of dressed stone for the burnt offerings, each a cubit and a half long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit high. On them were placed the utensils for slaughtering the burnt offerings and other sacrifices. So all of their torture tools.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And double-pronged hooks, each a handbreadth long, were attached to the walls all around. The tables were for the flesh of the offerings. This is sounding super gross. This doesn't sound like a temple. This sounds like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
With the big ass fucking hooks on them. Like, we're going to hang them here and then bleed them out. And yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
This is nasty. Outside the inner gate... we're moving on to the priest's rooms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Outside the inner gate within the inner court were 2 rooms, one at the side of the north gate facing south, and another on the side of the south facing north. He said to me, the room facing south is for the priest who guards the temple, and the room facing north is for the priests who guard the altar. These are the sons of Zadok, who are the only Levites who may draw near to the Lord to minister before him. So unlike how they used to do things, where all the Levites were all the priests for everything, there are significantly fewer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then he measured the court. It was square, 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide. This is a big ass motherfucking building. This is like, well, that's what he said. He was standing on the side of the mountain and looked down, and this like complex looked like a city.
Mm-hmm.
So this temple looks like a city.
Right.
It's huge. Okay. The altar was in front of the temple. He brought me to the portico of the temple and measured the jambs of the portico. They were 5 cubits wide on either side. The width of the entrance was 14 cubits, and its projecting walls were 3 cubits wide on either side. The portico was 20 cubits wide and 12 cubits from front to back. It was reached by a flight of stairs, and there were pillars on each side of the jambs. Then the man brought me to the main hall in the outer sanctuary and measured the jambs. The width of the jambs was 6 cubits on each side. The entrance was 10 cubits wide, and the projecting walls on each side of it were 5 cubits wide. He also measured the main hall. It was 40 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. Mm-hmm. Then he went into the inner sanctuary, which is the most holy place. That's where in the previous temple, I've lost the word. The gold box with where God goes in.
Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant. Thank you. Sorry, I had a moment. Long COVID is a bitch. Okay. He went into the inner sanctuary and measured the jambs of the entrance. Each was 2 cubits wide. The entrance was 6 cubits wide, and the projecting walls on each side of it were 7 cubits wide. He then measured the length of the inner sanctuary. It was 20 cubits, and its width was 20 cubits across the end of the main hall. He said to me, "This is the main holy place." Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we're going to talk about the side rooms. Okay. He measured the wall of the temple. It was 6 cubits thick, and each side room around the temple was 4 cubits wide. The side rooms were on 3 levels, one above the other, 30 on each level. Okay. There were ledges all around the wall of the temple to serve as supports for the side rooms, so that the supports were not inserted into the wall of the temple. The side rooms all around the temple were wider than at each successive level. So it's kind of like reverse pyramid kind of style. Like the upper levels are wider than the lower levels, and the pillars hold the levels up as you go. Like there's pillars to hold the higher levels, so that the pillars aren't so the supports for the higher levels aren't in the temple.
Oh, okay.
They go outward.
Right.
Okay. The side rooms all around the temple were wide. Okay, I already said this. Wider at each successive level. The structure surrounding the temple was built in ascending stages, so that the rooms widened as one went upward. A stairway went up from the lowest floor to the top floor through the middle floor. I guess that's how you'd have to do it. I don't know another way to build stairs. I saw that the temple had a raised base all around it, forming the foundation of the side rooms. It was the length of the rod, 6 long cubits. The outer wall of the side rooms was 5 cubits thick. The open area between the side rooms of the temple and the priest's room was 20 cubits wide all around the temple. There were entrances to the side rooms from the open area, one on the north and another on the south, and the base adjoining the open area was 5 cubits wide all around. The building facing the temple courtyard on the west side was 70 cubits wide, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around, and its length was 90 cubits. Okay. Then he measured the temple. It was 100 cubits long, and the temple courtyard and the buildings with its walls were also 100 cubits long. The width of the temple courtyard on the east, including the front of the temple, was 100 cubits. Then he measured the length of the building facing the courtyard at the rear of the temple, including its galleries on each side. It was 100 cubits. So this is a big motherfucker. 100 cubits. Let's see. 100 cubits is 175 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about decorations.
Let's do it. I can only imagine that God only wants his place decorated, like bedazzled, sparkly and shit.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
The previous temple, like the first temple, if you remember, was like adorned in gold and bronze and silver, and everything was fucking dipped and shiny and shit everywhere. It was incredibly ornate, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one, not so. No gold. No red, blue, and purple curtains and shit everywhere. It doesn't talk about the different kinds of poles. It doesn't include the Ark of the Covenant. It doesn't include, you remember those giant fucking angels with the wings, like the wings in the inner temple?
Yeah.
No.
None of that?
No, none of that. It's really surprising. So
none of the fun shit?
Well, it's just very different. So are you ready to hear about how it's decorated?
Yeah, I want to know.
Okay. The main hall, the inner sanctuary, and the portico facing the court, as well as the thresholds and the narrow windows and galleries around the 3 of them. Everything beyond and including the threshold was covered with wood. The floor, the wall up to the windows, and the windows were covered. In the space above the outside of the entrance to the inner sanctuary and on the walls at regular intervals around the inner and outer sanctuaries were carved cherubim and palm trees. Palm trees alternated with cherubim. Each cherub had 2 faces, the face of a human being toward the palm tree on one side and the face of a lion toward the palm tree on the other. They were carved all around the whole temple, from the floor to the area above the entrance. Cherubim and palm trees were carved on the wall of the main hall. So basically you have carved wooden carvings. This place is covered in wood, and there's wooden carvings, palm trees and cherubims, human faces and lion faces. And that's pretty much it. Like, it's really not that complicated. It's still a lot of wood carving.
Right.
But that's very different from the lavish, like, Trump-esque style temple there was before. You know?
Mm-hmm.
No more gold toilets.
That really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know at least one person that would be disappointed that there were no go with toilets.
Same. Okay, so the main hall had a rectangular door frame, and the one at the front of the most holy place was similar. There was a wooden altar 3 cubits high and 2 cubits square. Its corners, its base, and its sides were of wood. The man said to me, "This is the table that is before the Lord." Both the main hall and the most holy place had double doors. Each door had 2 leaves, 2 hinged leaves for each door. And on the doors of the main hall were carved cherubim and palm trees like those carved on the walls. And there was a wooden overhang on the front of the portico. On the side walls of the portico were narrow windows with palm trees carved on each side. The side rooms of the temple also had overhangs. Okay, so that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much done with kind of like the decor. The priest rooms. Let's talk about the priest rooms. You ready?
Oh, the fuck room.
No.
What?
No. Then the man led me northward into the outer court and brought me to the rooms opposite the temple courtyard and opposite the outer wall on the north side. The building, whose door faced north, was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, both in the section 20 cubits from the inner court, and in the section opposite the pavement of the outer court. Gallery faced gallery at the 3 levels. This is just so much. Okay. In front of the rooms, there was an inner passageway, 10 cubits wide and 100 cubits long. Their doors were on the north. The upper rooms were narrower, for galleries took more space from them than from the rooms in the lower and middle floors of the building. The rooms on the top floor had no pillars as the lower floor courts had, so they were smaller in floor space than those on the lower and middle floors, which is what I just said. Right. There was an outer wall parallel to the rooms and the outer court. It extended in front of the rooms for 50 cubits. While the row of the rooms on the side next to the outer court was 50 cubits long, the row on the side nearest the sanctuary was 100 cubits long. The lower rooms had an entrance on the east side as one enters them from the outer court. On the south side, along the length of the wall of the outer court, adjoining the temple courtyard and opposite the outer wall, were rooms with a passageway in front of them. These were like the rooms on the north. They had the same length and width with similar exits and dimensions. Similar to the doorways on the north were the doorways of the rooms on the south. There was a doorway at the beginning of the passageway that was parallel to the corresponding wall, extending eastward, by which one enters the rooms. Then he said to me, "The north and south rooms facing the temple courtyard are the priests' rooms, where the priests who approach the Lord will eat the most holy offerings. There they will put the most holy offerings, the grain offerings and the sin offerings and the guilt offerings, for the place is holy. Once the priest enters the holy precincts, they are not to go into the outer court until they leave behind the garments in which they minister, for these are holy. They are to put on other clothes before they go near the places that are for the people." So they have to wear different clothes when they're in the most holy places, because in the most holy place, I mean, their clothes are going to be covered with blood.
Yeah.
Basically, they're going to be head to toe fucking biohazards.
I mean, God likes his priests to dress sexy, and, to him, sexy is covered in blood.
I mean, I guess. So they have to take off their blood-soaked clothes before they go out to where the people are, so the people aren't fucking terrified, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, God's like, nah, the blood-soaked thing's only... It'll scare other people, so just change it.
But they didn't used to do it that way. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different.
Trial and error. God found out quick that it's like, oh, people don't like blood, like, just covered everywhere.
But if we were made in his image, we should really like blood.
You would think.
We should be vampires.
We should just love the smell of like a burning carcass covered.
I mean, a lot of people do like the smell of, like, have you had a steak? It smells delicious.
Not to the point, but not to the point that God likes it, because he likes it charred. Like, yeah. We're talking beyond.
We're talking burnt popcorn kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if somebody was like, yeah, I really like it when you burn that pop. It's like, fuck is wrong with you? Like, just go do your own thing in your own little nook over there.
And change your clothes before you come out here, because you stink.
You burnt popcorn shit.
Okay. So the outer temple area. When he had finished measuring what was inside the temple area, he led me out by the east gate and measured the area all around. I thought we already did this, but apparently not. He measured the east side with the measuring rod. It was 500 cubits. Okay.
That is a lot laying end over end your penis.
That is... It takes some gymnastic skill.
Yeah. It's and a lot of Viagra.
I mean, 500 cubits is 875 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's long. 265 meters.
I know.
That is a big motherfucker. He measured the north side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. He measured the south side. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. Then he turned to the west and measured it. It was 500 cubits by the measuring rod. I don't know why he couldn't have just said all of those fucking 500 cubits are all around. But we had to go through it every time. So he measured the area on all four sides. It had a wall around it, 500 cubits long and 500 cubits wide, so to separate the holy from the common. So this 500 cubit area was to separate, this wall was to separate the holy from the common.
Is that 500 by 500? Like a square area? Or is it? Okay.
Yeah. You got a 500 on every side.
Right. So it's
huge.
500 times 500, that's 25,000 square cubit area? Square rod.
If your rod is square, you need to see a doctor.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. We're done. Well, I think we're done measuring. I can't remember if we're done. No, we're not done. We're not quite done measuring.
Oh, shit. That bronze guy's like, God, I cannot keep this up much longer.
Then the man brought me to the gate facing the east. And I saw, this is Ezekiel talking, you ready? I saw the glory of God of the God of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the roar of rushing waters, and the land was radiant with his glory. The vision I saw was like the vision I had seen when he came to destroy the city, and like the visions I had seen by the Kibar River, and I fell face down.
So I just imagine God finally whacking off and getting off to building this temple, and he's just like, and it's just like an overflow of God's quote unquote glory.
I mean,
like
I'm just reading you what it
river.
says. Yeah, like a raging river. Okay. So he fell face down, ass up. The glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing the east. Then the Spirit lifted me up, hopefully not by his butthole, and brought me into the inner court, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple.
Suitcase style.
While the man was standing beside me, I'm assuming we're talking about the bronze man now.
Yeah.
I heard someone speaking to me from inside the temple. He said, "Son of man, this is the place of my thrones." This is God now.
Mm-hmm.
"And the place for the soles of my feet." So God has feet like we do, which
Apparently
is to be expected because in Genesis, we're created in his image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. "This is where I will live among the Israelites forever. The people of Israel will never again defile my holy name, neither they nor their kings, by their prostitution and the funeral offerings for their kings at death." Funeral offerings are like memorial monuments.
Right.
So they make like big monument. Okay. "When they placed their threshold next to my threshold and their doorposts beside my doorposts, with only a wall between me and them, they defiled my holy name by their detestable practices. So I destroyed them in my anger. Now let them put away from me their prostitution and the funeral offerings for their kings, and I will live among them forever. Don't worship your kings, the ones that I put in place."
Right.
Okay.
God's a bit finicky. I mean,
He's a jealous God. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
He did tell you. He's a jealous God. "Son of man, describe the temple to the people of Israel that they may be ashamed of their sins." So this big ass building is supposed to shame people somehow. To me, honestly, if you're going to spend this kind of resources on building this big fucking building so that you can fucking kill shit in it and be glorified, you're the one who should be kind of embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, people are starving.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them to build this fucking thing?
Yep.
I mean, okay,
it's their
but
punishment. They deserve this because they're shitty.
But I mean, this seems like it would be shameful for him. Like, I don't know, when you see these giant mega churches and they spend like millions and millions of dollars on a building, I'm just like, you should be ashamed.
No, but see, they're not ashamed.
They're not.
Because they're doing it for God. And so therefore there's no shame.
But, okay.
but okay.
My brain just doesn't work like theirs. Okay. So they should be ashamed.
I definitely think that the money, both for the resources that could be used for this temple, as well as the mega church resources, could be better spent like on different things. But they think that this is doing God.
How many like little homes do you think that you could build with one of those mega church buildings?
I mean,
and house homeless people. Yeah.
But I mean, my dream is always to make enough money to where I can retire, but then also turn churches into like homeless shelters or some kind of like
abandoned or churches that are being sold.
Right.
Yeah. Into homeless shelters.
Yeah. Turn them either into homeless shelters or whatever the area needs.
Like group home kind of things. Yeah. A community center, whatever. Yeah. That would help serve the community.
Yeah. I think that would be a good use for these churches. Because I mean, if you just, anytime you're running around town or going anywhere and you see these huge churches and it's like, what do they do there? Oh, they teach people a bunch of bullshit about a guy who needed to kill himself in order to forgive everybody for the shit that he did to him. Oh, okay. That seems like a very good use of that huge ass building. Meanwhile, there's kids living on the street over there.
Yeah, we could use a soup kitchen. Okay, so these people are supposed to be ashamed. Let them consider its perfection, and if they are ashamed of all they have done, make known to them the design of the temple, its arrangements, its exits and entrances, its whole design and all its regulations and laws. Write these down before them so that they may be faithful to its design and follow all of its regulations.
So only if they can recognize how shitty they are and they want to praise God, does he write it down? Is that what I heard?
Well, he has to write it down in front of them so they can appreciate how perfect this is, I guess. And so they can follow it.
Well, I thought that the stipulation was that, if they repent and everything.
If they're ashamed, let them consider. And if they are ashamed, make it known to them. So you have to be ashamed in order to have this, in order to obtain this knowledge. But there's that, but then he says, tell this to all the Israelites. So it's kind of confusing. Are you supposed to tell it to all of them, or are you supposed to only tell it to the people who are ashamed of themselves? Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Both. Then, then we're going to talk about the surrounding holy area. You ready? This is the law of the temple. All the surrounding area on top of the mountain. Okay. This is on top of the mountain. All of the surrounding area on top of the mountain will be most holy, such is the law of the temple. These are the measurements of the altar in long cubits. We're back to measurements now. That cubit being a cubit and a handbreadth. So we're back to long cubits, right? Like 21 inches?
Yep,
long cubits. Its gutter is a cubit deep and a cubit wide with a rim of 1 span. Okay. In case you're wondering, a span is about 11 inches. Okay, so you have the gutters. They're a cubit deep and a cubit wide with a rim of 1 span around the edge. And this is the height of the altar. From the gutter on the ground up to the lower ledge that goes around the altar, it is 2 cubits high and the ledge is a cubit wide. From this lower ledge to the upper ledge that goes around the altar, it is 4 cubits high, and that ledge is also a cubit wide. Above that, the altar hearth is 4 cubits high, and 4 horns project upward from the hearth. The altar hearth is square, 12 cubits long and 12 cubits wide. The upper ledge is also square, 14 cubits long and 14 cubits wide. All around the altar is a gutter of 1 cubit with a rim of a half a cubit. The steps of the altar face east. So we have to have the gutter for the blood, I assume.
Yeah. I guess so. So they can wash it away too.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, how crazy is it? It's like, well, how do we do away with these sins? Well, first off, we're gonna have to spill a lot of blood. Oh, how does that get rid of the sins? I mean, God just really likes blood. So you distract him with the blood and he forgets about it.
Wait,
Oh.
we're getting into the dedication. You ready to hear about the dedication?
Sure.
This is a lot of blood stuff. Then he said to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says. These will be the regulations for sacrificing burnt offerings and splashing blood against the altar when it is built. You are to give a young bull as a sin offering to the Levitical priests of the family of Zadok, who come near to minister before me, declares the sovereign Lord. You are to take some of its blood and put it on the 4 horns of the altar and on the 4 corners of the upper ledge and all around the rim, and so purify the altar and make atonement for it. You were to take the bull for the sin offering and burn it in the designated part of the temple area outside the sanctuary. On the second day, you are to offer a male goat without defect for a sin offering, and the altar is to be purified as it was purified with the bull. And by purified, they don't mean like bleach it. They mean spread blood everywhere. That's how you purify. When you have finished purifying it, you are to offer a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. You are to offer them before the Lord, and the priests are to sprinkle salt on them and sacrifice them as a burnt offering to the Lord. That'll make them taste better. Is salt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're supposed to eat them.
They do. They eat some of it. The burnt offering?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, the priests get the best parts.
Oh.
Well, God gets like the fat. Like they went through all of this in like Leviticus. Like,
right.
Yeah. For 7 days, you are to provide a male goat daily for sin offering. You are also to provide a young bull and a ram from the flock, both without defect. For 7 days, they are to make atonement for the altar and cleanse it. Thus, they will dedicate it. So they built this offer exactly how God said. But then, of course, the altar is sinful because reasons. So you have to purify and make atonement for the stone and wood that you've put there.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why spilling the blood of these animals causes sin to go.
Because God said so.
But so I guess my point is that it just seems arbitrary.
It is arbitrary. I mean, you could say pour Mountain Dew all over that bitch, and it would be. I mean, it's just that's the Southern way, by the way.
Yeah, that's the Southern way.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Mountain Dew or sweet tea, one of the two.
Or
Coke. And so you just pour it
see,
all.
all soda's Coke here in the South.
Yes. That's why I said Coke. Mm-hmm. If you wanted a Dr. Pepper too fucking bad, you're getting Coke. If you said Coke. I'm just kidding. It's different. You can say Dr. Pepper. But if you want like a cola product, it's all Coke.
Well, I mean, growing up, I always just said Coke. And they're like, is Pepsi okay? Well, that's what I fucking said, isn't it? It was my attitude about it. I was like, yeah, that's what I said. Coke.
Well, that's because you meant cola, but you said Coke. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's see. 7 days dedicated. Okay. At the end of these days, from the 8th day on, the priests are to present your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar. Then I will accept you, declares the sovereign Lord.
Oh.
Yep. That's it for today.
Thank fucking Christ.
I'm so sorry it was like that. It was just one of those things we have to get through. Next week, we're going to be moving into Ezekiel 44. And I have to tell you, it's more of the rules. But now we know at least what the temple's going to be like. We're going to be talking about the princes. Okay, so it's going to be a little different in regards to how the holy the holy group is structured, right? The priests, their hierarchy and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, how they're organized is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have princes. We're no longer going to have a high priest, so we're going to talk about how that works and the privileges that the princes get. Okay. Uncircumcised people are not allowed.
Obviously. Gotta have that cut dick.
Mm-hmm. The Levites are going to have some new limitations because all Levites being the priests now and holy people it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, they fucked up one too many times.
Yeah. Now we're going to move into like the priests of Zadok and their ancestry. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, which is interesting because they're also Levites, but they're a specific Levitical priest sect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are the dudes now. We're going to talk about the priest's garments. The rules for being a priest, like restrictions, like not just dress code, but like how they're allowed to wear their hair. It's interesting because priests are in this Jewish part in Judaism, these priests are allowed to get married, right? But they're only allowed. I'm just going to give you a spoiler because I think this is interesting. They're only allowed to marry virgins of Israelite descent or widows of other priests.
Or hashtag purebloods.
Yeah, they have to be Israelites. They're not allowed to marry widows or divorced women, but they can marry widows of other priests, but not widows of anybody else.
Yeah, these are the OG purebloods, y'all.
Yeah. They're also responsible, and this is interesting, for teaching the difference between holy and common and how to distinguish between clean and unclean. So we're going to talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The priests, which this is a little different too, are also going to be the judges.
Okay.
They're also not allowed to possess. They're not allowed to own anything. We're going to talk about how this land is holy, the land for the city, the land for the princes, all that other kind of shit. How the princes get justice. We're going to talk about offerings from the people and what role the princes play in offerings. Because offerings are going to be a little different too. We're not going to have the same festivals that we always had before. We're going to talk about Passover. There's all new rules, right? With the second temple comes basically all new rules. Okay. We're going to talk about the Sabbaths and the new moon. Entrance and exit criteria. We're going to talk about grain and free will offerings, grain and burnt offerings, inheritance, preparation for offerings. We're going to talk about kitchens. So women, you want to stick around for, sorry. I do love being in the kitchen. John also likes to cook. So
yeah, I like to grill. I make this really nice, beef stroganoff. Mm-hmm. It's really tasty.
My favorite thing that you make is the mushroom soup.
I haven't made that in a while.
I know, we should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're going to talk about the temples, river, outer boundaries, how they equally divide land. Oh, inheritance of aliens. So we're going to talk a little bit about immigration. What land belongs to the 7 tribes, the sacred lands, common land, the prince's land, 5 tribes land, city gates, the total circumference of all of the land, and the name of the city.
What about, do they have any dual lands that produce both green and white mana?
We're not going to get into magic talk here.
We got shock lands?
No, we're not going to talk about that.
What?
But I don't know if you know this, but the circumference all around is 18,000 cubits or 6 miles or 9.5 kilometers for those who aren't imperialists.
You can play a lot of magic on them grounds.
So, do you want to have a spoiler of what the city's name is, or do you want me to tell them next week?
Sure. What's the city's name?
The name of the city from that time on will be "The Lord is There."
That's the name of the city?
The Lord is there. Yep.
I wonder what word they present "the Lord is there."
I don't know, but you could probably look it up.
Probably.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
All right. So if y'all want to know what the magical name for Lord is there is next week, then I guess you'll have to tune in then.
Yeah.
Also,
it's a long one. It's a long one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you want to learn about the different styles that the priests can wear and everything like that,
how
also
they're allowed to wear their hair.
We'll be introducing the Israelite dual and shocklands next week. And I guess we'll see you heathens then. If you will, please go down below and let us know what you think about this podcast. We'd really love to know what you guys are thinking about all this blueprint talk. And hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content.
And don't forget to stand up and use your voice.
Bye, heathens.
Bye, y'all.